These are some of my thoughts on the Battlefield 5 beta. Now that the beta is done, it's only been done for maybe like a day or so by the time I'm recording this video. And I have to say that on the whole, the game is definitely playable. It's playable, it's functional. That's one of the things I noticed that was just so apparent after I was playing for maybe 3 or 4 days. And that's one of the main things that popped in my head, is that this is satisfactory. This game, there is nothing really necessarily about the game that makes me want to buy it. When I played this game, almost every single day I popped in there and I was playing either Rotterdam or I was playing Narvik. And as I was playing, and I was going and, capping objectives, doing all those things you need to do inside a Battlefield game, the one thing that popped in my head several times, actually, the first thing that popped in my head was, okay, I wonder how many words are actually censored in this game. As it turns out, quite a lot. I think it was the last day that I was messing around with some of the people in one of the games where we were trying to figure out what exactly was censored, and some of the usual suspects naturally, but there were some that were quite surprising, and apparently the loopholes don't always get you around. So somebody's doing this, definitely. Somebody is definitely sitting in an office and making sure that these sort of things are censored. That's the thing, is that I don't like the censoring. I really don't like the censoring. Is that it's quite bizarre the direction that DICE has taken with this. Is that when you're playing the game, the characters are screaming obscenities. That sort of thing is something that the game characters do. A whole bunch of different things, but when the players actually type them, they're asterisks out, they're censored out, and frankly, I really just don't get the context of the whole thing. I don't get the context as to why the game characters are allowed to curse, but the players are not allowed to curse. Is it because we're afraid of hurting people's feelings and stuff like that? And of course, there was the major controversy, is that the fact that white man is censored. So definitely, I tried to see if Caucasian man was allowed. It was. So there we go. We just have to get maybe that's what the game is secretly trying to tell us to do. Maybe we should be more enlightened about the terms we're using and stuff like that. By the by, white woman is not censored. You can actually type white woman in there and it will still come out. And almost every single game I was going in there, and people were trying to do this. And what's another one? Like sucks, as in I was typing this out and saying this lag sucks. And that's censored out. Sucks is censored. And I suppose in that sense maybe, but that's not in the context that we're using it. So again, what's going on, DICE? Who's exactly in charge of all this censoring? It's a long list. And well, first of all, I'm against censoring in general. When I grew up, I was playing the Halo CE demo, and everyone was playing Blood Gulch, everyone was locking those Banshees down, and everybody was typing whatever they felt like on there. And nobody got banned, not really, unless the server admin banned you for beating his ass in one-on-one and then claiming that you wanted access to his clan. That you got banned for. But frankly, nobody said a whole bunch of stuff back then, and I guess people had thicker skin. I really think that back then people had thicker skin than they do today. So I got sidetracked on the tangent here. That was not a very long one, maybe like a 3-minute tangent, but that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. When I'm playing this game, I'm noticing that why the hell did they choose to give the STG-44 as a default weapon? The thing is awesome. It's amazing. Once you get the upgrades, and I'll talk about the upgrades in a second, it can blow everyone away. That's why everyone's running with that stuff. Or with the Lee Enfield, in which case you had a sniper rifle that was a guaranteed 2-hit kill. Unless you hit the head. It doesn't matter the distance. It doesn't matter what it is. 2 shots on the body. And that's the same for pretty much every single sniper rifle. I didn't get a chance to use a whole lot of the medic guns, and I think I upgraded to the Bren for the support class. There's just a lot of questionable design decisions. Questionable design decisions, like why is it that when you spawn, almost instantly you're hit? And I'm wondering if even in this footage, you're going to see like I spawn, and maybe only 1 or 2 seconds after I jump into the game, I'm already taking fire. I'm already getting hit. And in some cases, I eat a tank round immediately after spawning. Now, some people could say that maybe that's just because you shouldn't be spawning on teammates if you think you're going to get hit. Well, isn't that the purpose of the team spawn system, to actually get in there and get on your team so that you can form up and attack objectives? I don't know. But that's also for normal spawns too. Like when you go in, when you're dropped off at the very extremity of the capture zone, and you're already taking fire, like on Rotterdam, where I'm trying to go to D, and I get spawned into the map, and it's mostly in the region where the tanks tend to go, along the outside of the map where the docks are. So it's just a questionable design decision. I mean, like, you get punished no matter what in that regard. I'm noticing that, once again, and like Battlefield 1, I was really upset about this, is that most of the time people are running either with semi-automatic weapons or fully automatic weapons. Now, it's not necessarily a bigger deal in World War II as it is in World War I, where bolt actions were the norm. And I that was a bit of a nitpick, but I wasn't really fond of that. But going into World War II, you'd think that there would be weapons like the Lee Enfield, the Kar-98, where you had the Springfield rifle. None of these things are pretty common for your general infantrymen, your assault troopers. You would think that something like that would be pretty common. There's no guarantee. Like, how is it that you can have a World War II? You have the M1a1 Carbine, which is on the screen right now, which was, I don't really know if this was used all that much in the Normandy theater. I know that they were everywhere in the Pacific theater, especially this one with the folding stock here. They were pretty common for Marines in the Pacific. I don't know if it was fairly common. I certainly don't think it was pretty common up in Norway, for that matter. And that I'm curious why there isn't a whole lot more recognizable stuff. You don't even spawn with a bar. Or, yeah, you give us the Bren. The Bren's a good one because, well, I mean, Bren was a pretty popular and distinctive weapon. But I saw some people saying that they're really bringing out the obscure weapons, like the default SIG LMG that you get for the support class. Apparently never actually even made it into the war. Not really. It was designed in Switzerland, and there was a small number made, but it never really popped in there. So we're going with the obscure weapons here, and partially because, one, I'm a fan of forgotten weapons, so that sort of thing is really neat, so we can see that sort of thing. But again, that's not really doing a whole lot for your authenticity in this area. Why you would get weapons that were not necessarily used or were prototyped out. Maybe the prototype thing I can get away with. And, none of this would really get to me if they weren't claiming that this was supposed to be an authentic experience. And don't notice that when I popped into the game, you notice that the UK side, everybody is all nice and diverse. And on the German side, everybody's white. I don't think that didn't escape my views. I mean, yeah, you could say, oh, they're going to allow customization. That'll come in a little bit later. Yeah, sure, they'll allow customization. But they chose to do that for the beta. That was a conscious decision to make your character line up like all that. Why couldn't you throw Africans onto the Germans? Because the Africa Corps, they had Africans in their ranks, even some Indians, even some Asians. Look, I mean, it existed. There are obviously photographs. Why don't you share the diversity around? Aren't we trying to reinforce an idea here? Like the right side of history was all nice and diverse. Maybe, maybe not. Dice, care to comment on that sort of thing? Oh well. So normally that wasn't necessarily a big problem. I'm just saying it's odd that we have on the UK side you have a female Asian sniper when the Pacific Theater was a thing, when the internment camps were a thing in the US. I know because I did a paper on this back in high school. Questionable design choice that sort of broke the authenticity just a little tiny bit, but not too much. What did earn a bit more of my ire was the fact that you could buy upgrades for your weapons. Now, this isn't necessarily something that's brand new, because you could do that sort of thing in, say, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, but you earn these sort of things through progression. Here, you have to buy your upgrades. You have to buy your upgrades, and this all comes from a point pool that you earn from your matches. You use it to buy cosmetic upgrades, yes, but you also use it to buy things like fast bullets. And jumping in when you're brand new to this game and you're not sure why you're not hitting those guys at range with your STG-44's bullets, your Sturmgewehr bullets, and then you realize that you can purchase fast bullets versus your slow and out-of-shape bullets, then we start to get into some interesting territory. I have a theory. And my theory is that the points that you use to actually buy those cosmetics and to buy those upgrades are going to be purchasable themselves. I do not think for one moment that EA is going to let this one go. Just like they did for Battlefront, they're going to do the exact same thing for this. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to have these sort of points purchasable. So I'm really going to keep my eye on this one. When I was going around, when I was doing things like vehicles, actually, maybe only a few times I actually even jumped into vehicles. What I noticed with the tanks is that I didn't really like them all that much. They were very slow, very big targets, and the maps don't really offer an incredible view of the environment. You can get caught up on stuff. Even a Narvik here, when I'm walking around on foot, sometimes I have difficulty getting over snowbanks. I'm having difficulty getting over snowbanks. I have to vault over the sides of the road when you think something like that shouldn't be very difficult to do. You get caught up on the terrain a whole lot, and the turrets spin very, very slowly, and giving enough time for people to toss a Panzerfaust your way. And the Panzerfaust, you can blow through 2 of those. The game gives you 2. And it doesn't do an incredible amount of damage. I think it's 24 damage a rocket. You blow two of them in there, and the tank still got a lot of energy to take you down. So then you think that you bring out the rifle grenade, and that rifle grenade is very interesting because they went through the trouble to model its own rifle. I really didn't get a good look at what rifle it was. I really didn't care a whole lot because the thought didn't come into my mind until way later that this is its own rifle that this guy's lugging around with them that has a rifle grenade. Why not just make it so that you can use whatever weapon you have and then use that as a rifle grenade? I think the answer is that it would require the designers to model a rifle grenade muzzle onto virtually every single weapon, which wouldn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense when you have things like the Sten or the Bren. That doesn't necessarily make for a conducive grenade launching weapon. Then I guess the obvious question is, why do you have rifle grenades at all? Maybe you could restrict them to like a demolition class or only the assault class. Or, well, it is only the assault class. But I'm just saying, it's very strange that it has its own individual weapon, its own individual reload animation, where he puts the grenade in and puts a blank into the chamber and locks that up. And you never see this sort of rifle again. It's there just for the purpose of that one particular weapon. It's just questionable. There's a lot of questionable decisions here. What's questionable is the map size, in my opinion. I'm going through this, like especially Rotterdam, and I am sincerely hoping, I don't think this is true given the fact that I was having conversations with some people in the game over this, that the maps are necessarily not going to be their final size. I desperately hope that there are going to be bigger versions of these maps, but I'm prepared to be disappointed in this regard. That when I was playing Narvik, I'm noticing that in addition, there is aerial gameplay, but I'm noticing, and it's very obvious on this map, there's a lot of water in this map. There's a lot of water, and there's boats that are anchored off the shore. So my big question is, why can't we have naval combat in this? Why can't we have boats in this particular map? There's a lot of water. There's a boat right there. You can see it right in front of there. And yet I am quite confused as to why it's not present. Is this to mean that there aren't any boats that are going to be in the final game? No. They're very likely could. I'm just saying it's questionable. We're not seeing what's possible with the maps. Or like there's 64 people on this map, which feels rather small. And when I say this sort of thing, I compare it to things like Striker Karkand, Gulf of Oman, Road to Jalalabad, and even the Caspian border, which were very, very big maps. It would take you at least quite a few minutes to get across it. And that vehicles were necessary. There are airfields in those maps. There are no airfields in this game. You just spawn in the sky, just like in Battlefront 2 and Battlefront 1, where you just enter the battlefield from those planes. It's just questionable. And in Rotterdam, you'd think that there's flak fire in the sky. You can actually see it exploding above you. There's no aerial combat. That would be a great place to have an aerial combat fight, is in an urban map. Maybe they're going to do something like the Battle of London, or, oh god, maybe Dresden or something like that we just haven't seen yet. I desperately hope that there will be, but I don't think there will be, because I think these maps are getting smaller over time. I'm ignoring the vehicles. I would like to have foot combat more if I'm playing this sort of thing, which speaks to me that the game is really trying to pull in a different audience. They're really trying to go more or less after the Call of Duty audience. And like I said, they know it. They know it, and that's why they're trying to appeal to this ground-based combat. Nobody wants to go in a vehicle. Everybody wants to fight on the ground. Everybody wants to put a throw on their automatics and go and take guys down. And then you have me, who is trying to use the M1 Carbine, or M1a1. I don't know if there's any particular difference in this game, whether it's going to treat them both the same way, or the Turner SMLE, which is really good, a semi-automatic Lee Enfield. I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that was a thing because I never saw it anywhere. Turns out it's an experimental weapon, just like all that sort of stuff. So, another thing I'm noticing in this game is crafting. To build fortifications. I just think crafting, I see a hammer, and that's the craze nowadays. Forgettable in my opinion. I very rarely used it, and maybe you could make the argument that maybe that would make a difference between like the life and death of like a push or a movement, but I really didn't see the need to do any of that. There was really no incentive to do that. There isn't really a whole lot of incentive to do a whole lot of stuff here. Like, nobody plays medic, but that's not entirely true, but the snipers are everywhere. Everybody loves to play the snipers. So, like, I'm wondering, what do I think about this whole thing? I've just been complaining for about like 15 or so minutes. And is there any good things to this game? Yes, there are actually good things. And there are those trademark Battlefield moments that are present in this game. Every now and again, I did have a good bit of fun. There was this one time I was playing, and I think it's in that other video that I put up, where I was trying to capture objective on this map, I believe it was, and there was a tank that just decided to drive right through the building. Just drive right through the building and try to crush us or something like that. And it just made like, oh god, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. I gotta go to safety. And that sort of thing to get your adrenaline pumping does remind me of Battlefield. But it's like almost like a vestigial feeling, like a limb that's withered away and doesn't really serve much of a purpose anymore. It just doesn't necessarily mean what it used to mean. But it's like it harkens back to those times. Like destructible buildings. This is like another game where I've never seen an entire structure fall down. On this map, you can destroy much of a building. You can destroy almost all of the building. But you cannot completely destroy a structure in this game. I've never seen it anyway. If someone can prove me wrong on that one, I'll gladly eat crow on that point. But like, I'm thinking of older games like Bad Company 2. Bad Company 2 is my favorite Battlefield, because of the way it was advertised, and it delivered in a whole lot of those respects. The destructibility was one of the things I thought was really, really cool. Like, if there was a dude that was hiding behind a wall, you could blow a hole in that wall, go and shank the guy. You could do that. And if you so chose, you could even take down the whole building around someone. I mean, they would sort of give them away, but you had the option of doing that. Even in Battlefield 4, you had the Levolution where you could take down a skyscraper in the Siege of Shanghai. Here, I can't knife through a wall. I've tried it. I can't knife through a wall. I can't knife through glass. Those sort of things you just went back on. And I'm really confused as to why. Just another questionable decision. Are there any more fun moments? Close games. Close games are really good, especially if you're on a good streak. Like, this is one of my best games with the M1 Carbine. I think once I got the Turner, it got way better, or I had a lot of better games, better streaks and all that. But those were, again, few and far between. Oh, this shotgun, to hell with this shotgun, by the way. It's a great weapon, especially when I managed to get my hands on it. But, man, I think it'd be like practically a sniper. Got sidetracked again. The fun moments are in this game, but they're buried under it's okay. This game is functional. It's playable. I'm going through it, but now that the beta is gone and done with, I really don't feel much of a desire to play it again. I'm just not all that impressed with it. There is nothing here that hasn't necessarily been accomplished by any other Battlefield before it, and I would argue with Bad Company 2, some games in the past have even outdone it. They've outdone it, and how? So it's like one step forward, two steps back. All the Battlefield games are playable. Even Battlefield 4 in its initial launch state was playable. You could tell me that perhaps that they would get the server issues fixed. They probably will. You could get the clipping issues fixed, like being able to look through your own body wearing your last stand, which I might add, I should have the option to instantly want to respond, not have to wait while my life is draining away, and my tickets too for that matter. And you could tell me that like the animation errors where they reload more than a couple bullets into the weapon can be fixed. The sound pops can be taken care of, and like the minor animation things where the dials on the planes don't move, which is funny when those sort of things worked in the previous games. You could tell me that'll all be taken care of, but I doubt it. This isn't necessarily a beta; it's a demo, just like we've been seeing in a lot of games lately. So, like, thus ends my time with it. I was only in here for a little while, and it was interesting. But I think this is pretty much the extent that I'll be operating with Battlefield 5. And it's a shame because, like, I was really into these sort of games before. And I probably might just pop in Bad Company 2 and just relive the good times. And just beg, pray to God, Buddha, that I can get Bad Company 3, that we can get the game that we deserve. Bad Company 3, which is complete and utter madness with like a high-capacity magazine. That was good. Those were good times. So this beta is over. As of the time of making this video, I got a email from NVIDIA saying that there's a code for the beta to Black Ops 4. In which case I'm going to go in there. And I'm going to go into this game, which is rather cleverly, the beta is rather cleverly spaced between the end of the Battlefield 5 beta and this beta, so that it's still fresh in our minds when we go over there. I can see just how much these games differ. Just how much, where I'm going into a Battle Royale game, because that's what it is, but I get to see whether or not I actually have some fun in that. Maybe, maybe not. Am I a little bit burned out on COD? I don't know. Black Ops 1 is still one of my favorite games in the series. Maybe World at War would probably be a bit better because, and again, you can't beat Gary Oldman in your game. So I think this is pretty much where I'm going to cut it. I want to say thank you very much for watching this. And I like if you decide to stick around this long. But these are pretty much my thoughts on the entire thing. It's okay. It's okay. Not incredibly fantastic, but nothing incredibly bad either. It's just a game that's forgettable, kind of like Destiny. 7 out of 10, I want to say. Maybe 8 for diversity points. Maybe next time something will grab my attention. You never know. Maybe the answer's in the past, and not necessarily the future. Maybe we need to give it a break for a little while. And I hope to God there are no microtransactions. But again, I got a bad feeling about this. Oh well, that's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next video.